Hey, I'm Rick Miller, the writer, director, and performer of Boom X. And it's great to be here at Western Canada Theatre again. For the people who saw Boom last year, you'll get the same idea of a solo show with a lot of multimedia, someone playing a lot of characters with a lot of heart and a lot of humanity and humor, but it's just the era is different and hence the cultural references are a bit different.
What the hell is Generation X?
I had thought early on it's going to be a trilogy, but we didn't start from scratch like we did with Boom. We had an amazing team of designers, the same ones that worked on Boom, and we just decided this was going to be a different era. We had radio turning into black and white TV, turning into color TV in Boom. Here we have the birth of video games, music videos, and the internet right towards the end of the play. So we knew that physically it was going to feel very different. Boom, which I had to look at from a distance because I'm not a baby boomer, had, I think, sort of a softer, a little more distant perspective. Like I became all those characters at the time, but I didn't identify with them in the same way.
This is me, age 5, on my new green machine.
This story really is me growing up encountering all these things. And because of that, and because of the era of the 70s and 80s really being polarizing, it's a little bit harsher around the edges, and hence the show doesn't have round edges, it has sharp corners. You were punk or disco, you were not both, right? There's so many crazy singers that I play. I have a particular love of Freddie Mercury of Queen because he's just such an extraordinary performer. And I don't do anyone justice, to be honest, but I give the feeling of these folks, right? I jump into that yellow jacket he wore at Live Aid, and it's just such an extraordinary rush for me to be able to do that and have the rights. Like I had to get the rights to all these songs. It means I had to approach all the music publishers, and in some cases the artists. Like Alanis Morissette wrote to me and said, you have the right to use my song from Jagged Little Pill towards the end of my show. And I'm like, yes, this is good.
A global audience is riveted to their screens as a historic moment unfolds. 2 spacecraft, the Soviet Soyuz and the American Apollo, are about to dock in orbit. The astronauts will soon open their hatches and bury the hatchets between these 2 rival superpowers.
The story takes place, it starts in 1970, and it's right in the heart of the Cold War, which started during Boom, but it really kind of reaches its peak in the mid-'80s when there was probably the biggest threat to nuclear war we've ever had, more so than even today. And I think anyone, no matter what era, no matter who you come see the show with, you'll recognize that young people do, no matter what generation you're from, have a similar attitude towards like, I feel anxious about the world, I'm going through times that feel like we're all falling apart, and we all share that, and we all come through in the end.
In an age of cynicism and despair, could this be the birth of a new hope?
Usually after seeing these shows, people go, I wish I had brought someone younger or older just to see what they think. Because ultimately, it's not about creating more generational divides. It's about breaking down that stuff. And I think this show breaks these things down, at least it tries to. It tries to not say that a millennial is one thing and a Gen Xer is one thing. If anything, it tries to just shake all that crap off and to go, that's just marketing. Really, this is about people living things. And that happens no matter how old you are or when you were born.
You don't remember world events, you remember like brownies and banana bikes and gobstoppers and posters on your walls from TV shows.
It's a coming of age story, and these 4 characters I play, Steph, Brendan, Annika, and Howard, you don't know who they are at first, like in Boom, but you're getting their sort of lives, and then they converge around my life, and they truly, they kick me in some cases, they really shake up the way I see the world, and I think it leads to the end of the play, which is a realization of what I'm gonna do for a living, which is do this.
You keep on shouting, you keep on shouting, come on! Stop! What is your name?
It is Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To seek the Holy Grail.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
What do you mean? African or European swallow?
What? I don't know that.
Why do I need to play 100 people? Because there are other people who do great solo shows playing one person. This is what I can do. I think it's what I do well. It's what leaves an impression on people and makes them feel that you're getting something you can't find on Netflix. And that's what I kind of live for, is to try to give people something special.
I want to rock and roll all night.
I think the most memorable moment when I was last here was opening night, and Russia had just invaded Ukraine that day, and there was a threat that they were going to take the capital, Kyiv, the next day. And there was a woman in the talkback who stood up from Ukraine. All her family was in Kyiv, and she was quite terrified and was quite moved by the Cold War portrayal that had just happened. And she asked the entire audience to record a message to say, I don't remember exactly what we said, but we all learned a bit of Ukraine that night and Ukrainian, and we said it together, and she recorded and sent it. And that just, again, realized that, yes, this is a show about the past, but it's always living and breathing in our lives today. That urgency of being in the presence of others is what keeps bringing me back to this kind of thing. Come see Boom X at the Sagebrush Theatre live in person now till January 28th.